So one of the things that makes Python really powerful is that it makes it really easy to manipulate strings. Um, let's think about what strings are actually. So I'm going to just make a string, and it's going to be, some string, and it's, I don't know, you're a lizard, Harry. Could have said gizzard, skizzard. Anyway, we can just look at the type of the string. Now, we might be tempted here to think that a string, right, we get class string. We might be tempted to think of a string as being something like a collection, right? Because we can access it, we can access the first character by saying some string sub 0, and if I print that, we're going to see the letter Y. So we can almost think about a string as being a list of characters, but this isn't quite right. And the reason it's not quite right is due to, can be exemplified by this error message. So in a list, you can replace something at a given index. So what if I wanted to replace that Y with a G? Some string sub 0 gets G, so we would expect to see, you're a lizard, Harry. But check out what happens when I do that. I go ahead and run this. String object does not support item assignment. And literally that's what we can't do here. We can't replace the initial position of this string with a new letter. And, one of your takeaways from this is that strings are immutable. And thus, in Python at least, we can think of strings as being something like scalars, right? Where a string is sort of its own fully formed thing, and it sits somewhere in memory as itself. You don't actually change. You don't change a given reference from an index in a string. For example, string sub 0 is not a reference to the G character necessarily, but some string is a reference to this entire value that's stored. And this sort of thing can get you caught up. You can hit a bit of a what's happening with this. And the takeaway here is that strings are immutable. You can't modify these individual indices, but what you can do is you can replace letters in the string and store it back over itself. Okay, so there are ways to modify strings, but you're actually destroying the string and recreating it, much the way you would destroy an integer and recreate it, or destroy a float, or destroy a Boolean and recreate it under the same name. So this may seem a little abstract, what I'm saying right here, but I just want to prime you with this idea that strings are immutable, strings are essentially scalars as in the way that Python treats them, and that you cannot replace individual indices in the string with a different character.